Welcome to another Patent Baron podcast. Please stay tuned for the Patent Baron, international lawyer and U.S. patent attorney J. Baron Lesperance.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Patent Baron podcast. I'm J. Baron Lesperance, the Patent Baron. I put a lock on your ideas. And today I have a special guest, Daya Naef. She's from the business coach background, and I've known her for a number of years. And I wanted to invite her onto my podcast so she could tell us more about what she does and how she helps people that are in the legal area, but also in other areas of business. And I guess we'll start with an initial question. I guess, hey, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about what you do, where you're located, and where people can find you online.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me today. So my company is called The Success Partner. So if you want to look for that, I'm pretty well branded out there on all the socials. And it's a coaching and consulting organization, mainly me at this time, but looking to grow. We work with small to medium-sized law firms all over the US and into Canada to help them grow, pivot, exit, doing a lot of exit strategy work. Succession planning for small firms has been pretty popular this year.
Right, right. Very good. So, you are an attorney too. So I think that,
Correct.
something
Yeah.
that's a bit different.
Formerly practicing construction attorney, and you wanted to know where I was too. So I'm usually up in the DC area. I'm also in New Orleans, and have a place in Alabama. So a little bit all over.
Right, right. Well, that's good. That's good. Of course, nowadays you can reach people everywhere. So that's the beauty of technology. So, as a business coach, you help professionals with their challenges and maximize their potential. I guess, what are some of the things you're seeing, today that you're helping some of your clients with?
Yeah, absolutely. The pain point that usually comes out is either profitability. And that leads into like if someone was tired, burnout, working 100 hours a week, can't quite get a handle on things, that usually lends to a conversation around profitability. So if the firm were more profitable or running more smoothly, then that wouldn't have to be the case. Also looking at people or firms that are hiring or firing, conversely. So to work on the culture and the fit of the people at the firm. When firm has a lot of turnover internally, they probably correlatively have a lot of turnover with clients as well, and may not know why. So digging in there is something that's something that's always relevant.
Right, right. Well, that's a good point you mentioned, about turnover, and that's something that, um, even talking to clients that I have, it's one of their frustrations with, working with whatever kind of law firm, whatever size it happens to be. But, typically in the larger firms, there's a fair amount of turnover. And I remember when I was corporate counsel, I would reach out to reply to an email in an email chain, and I would get a bounce back email that, so and so had left the firm, and to direct messages to another attorney. And it's really frustrating from a client perspective when that happens. So I can understand why firms are looking to do what they can to avoid that.
Yes.
So how did you develop the expertise that you gained over the years? How did you do that to help people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to coaching school. Some people don't know if that's a thing, but I spent a year in DC going to accomplishment coaching. And then I stayed on as an intern program coach for another 2 years. And they had asked me who I wanted to work with when I was fully in private practice coaching. And I said, anybody but lawyers. And of course, was a little bit short-sighted. So I have the background of having run a small firm, having practiced like 18 years, and
Mhm.
having that both that network, both knowing what the needs are, seeing what small firm ownership and management and growth and development is like. And so that's been it. But I've been at it about 7 years now. And so I've talked to firms all over the country, and the problems are not unique. I know we think everything is unique. I think there's a quote, someone said, families are happy in the same way and unhappy in different ways. So think that's I don't know, I can't get the quote right, but it's the firms are similar. When they're running well, they're running well in the right ways, and when they're running not well, it's a variety of different ways.
Mhm. Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, yeah, you certainly have, done a lot of videos, you do a lot of public speaking. I guess, how do you, what are some of the messages, I guess, that you try to communicate to your audiences in these settings?
Well, my CLE topics, I have three that have been very popular this fall: the AI and law firms
Mhm.
one, where we look at some of the emerging technology that is specifically developed for law firms and the ethics opinions that have been coming out. I have one on wellness in the practice of law, and I usually hold that in sort of a retreat type setting, either at like a yoga studio or at a bed and breakfast where people can come and really relax. And have I had the one I did recently. I had a private yoga instructor come, and we did that, and as well as the hour of CLE, and that was nice. And the other one I do is specifically for women lawyers, and we do it for women's bar associations, and also in larger firms, they have a women's section or a women's practice group. And it's on because we call it business development our way.
Very good, very good. Yeah, so I've got a good kind of follow-on question to that. So,
Okay, great.
like a lot of people associate coaching with traditional like sales kind of area, whether whatever kind of sales it happens to be. And yeah, so what do you say to people that, like, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm not in sales, I don't need any kind of coaching.
Mhm. Yes, we're always selling something. I liken it back to like, dating. I'm single now, again, and have been for a while. But then if you think about the time when you were like dating any time in your life, I think we've all done that at some point. Maybe we were successful right away and maybe we weren't. But you have to think about putting your best foot forward, listening to the other person, seeing what's in it for the whole relationship. And so we think about business development as lawyers as opposed to sales, and that's even more of a relationship type thing. Someone's going to know all about you as they're representing you. It's not like
Mm,
stopping off at the grocery store and
true.
you know buying something. It's something that is really very relationship based. So whatever
Yeah.
you call it, I actually heard somebody call it no, client conversion call, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fancy word for sales.
I like that though. That's good.
Yes. But in our program and our conversations, I call it a program loosely because we're developing it together. We touch on all the areas. So definitely sales calls, whoever's doing them. If it's a one-person firm, then that person's doing everything, and we have to look at it almost like going to the doctor and getting a checkup. We got to look at all the systems, even if it's just the one body of the operation. Conversely, in a larger firm, depending upon the practice area, they might have a whole staff of people that sales calls go here and take calls go there. These forms are filled out before you get to the attorney. You might not even get to the attorney until a later stage. Whereas flip that to like estate planning. Well, you're going to meet with the attorney first, and then it's going to go down the pyramid for the work to actually be completed.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that's good. I appreciate that. I think, I've certainly had some business coaching and sales training in my past. I think it's been something that was certainly worthwhile and that I do use on a regular basis. So, but I wanted to hear what you had to say from your perspective. So it sounds like what you're doing though is really rewarding. And, can you talk about some things in your career that you found really rewarding, when you've helped clients do certain things or get them to the next level, that sort of success stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working with a couple firms right now. They have a very established practice, but they've never established the firm structure in a way that it's like completely running. So it's something that they could step away from, either from a short time or in the future at some point retire or take on more interesting like academic work or something else. And so we're taking practices that are maybe 20 years old, but now we're developing a system. We'll also look looking ahead to what their financial goals are. I have one firm that's been stuck at 500,000. It's a one person firm, stuck at 500,000 for a while. They think they can go to 1 million. We've looked at the ideal client avatar, looked at where things were kind of falling through the cracks. So creating systems, creating ways to get referrals to those ideal clients, and also how to cover workload in order to do more business development. So we explored bringing in a part-time associate. We also explored bringing in a contract associate, and so that's the route we actually went with. And as well as beefing up the systems. They did have a paralegal slash office manager, and so beefing up their systems. They were great at what they did, but just beefing it up a little bit and seeing where the systems and things could go more smoothly, freeing up the head person to continue on the business development that we need to do to get firm on track for 1 million.
Great, great. Well, so you've been doing this for a while, but you've certainly seen things change over the years. Where do you think things are going as far as coaching and what you do, and how, like you were mentioning, kind of new technologies are coming into play, and how that's changing business coaching for lawyers, and everything that you do. Certainly, you mentioned AI, but there's other things too. Can you give us some more insight on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been following the changes in the legal profession for at least 5 years. There was a great book called Tomorrow's Lawyers by Richard Susskind out of the UK, where he really did some predictive analysis on law firms. He sort of predicted or went into about how other firms like accounting firms and consulting firms were cutting into the legal market. Also big claims firms where you can just handle your traffic tickets or handle things through yourself through a portal instead of engaging an attorney like we would have normally done 10 or 15 years ago, or just paid the bill. One of those two options. Now there are other options as far as the legal industry as a whole. My industry as a coach and a consultant for lawyers, I get one of two responses when I tell people what I do. They're either like, coach what, little league, softball. And I'm
Right.
like, do I look like a sports person? Because I'm really not. And or I get conversely, especially in the DC market and New York market, is how do you differentiate yourself from X, Y, and Z? How are you different?
Mhm.
So it's a pretty competitive market in the major cities, but I mean, lawyers are still going to outnumber lawyer coaches. I don't know, 1,000 to 1, 2,000 to 1. So,
Right, especially New York and DC. Yes, I certainly learned that when I spent some time in DC. It's kind of like engineers in Detroit. There's just, you can't throw a rock in DC and not hit a lawyer. So for people that are just starting out, what advice do you have for them? Because, oftentimes, hindsight, obviously, 2020 and all that, but, people that are, just starting out in their legal careers, or just starting out in any career, really, what advice can you give them?
I say to listen to others. um, to advice. I don't like to give too much advice as a blanket, but there are, of course, some standards. So definitely don't chase after shiny objects. Be open to opportunities that they come that seems to
Mhm.
be a good opportunity. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Of course, you do have to learn some hard knocks. You're not going to grow as a business or as a person unless you have some failures. So don't be too afraid of that. And always focus on the relationship. Focus on that, and that will be a good North Star for you.
Good point. Good point. Yes, one of the terms I remember from sales training was the happy ears, getting happy ears, and losing sight of, the overall objective and what the client wants. And sometimes they might say something that, really grabs your interest and distracts you from the real goal. And there's another phrase you probably heard, but like don't spill your candy in the lobby. I like that one. So when you're going to talk to someone, you don't want to do that. You want to ask questions, listen to what they have to say, and not just spout out all kinds of information, because we're all experienced. We all have a lot of knowledge we want to share, but we need to listen to the client, the customer, to see what they have to say.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. We get excited about how we can help somebody, but we don't know one, their language. Like we're speaking a completely different language than they're speaking.
Definitely.
And we're like two steps ahead. So it's like gotta bridge that connection.
True, true. Now, another other thing I like to use is third party stories. So when I'm talking to a current client, a prospective client, I'll have some third party stories. So do you have some that you can share that, maybe are, anonymous in scale, but it's always good to learn, from what someone did, and we can apply that. So I guess I'll give you a moment to think of a good third party story or two that can help the audience.
Yeah, like a client story. Um, so I've been working with a firm and they wanted to add a practice area. So they're primarily a family law firm, and had done some personal injury. So they wanted to branch into personal injury more so. And it's a good strategy to have personal injury and another practice area that brings consistent work, because personal injury can take so long. So you have to self-fund that, and it goes out. So we took some time. They came to me looking for a referral for marketing, and I said, "Well, are you up for a conversation about looking at your organization as a whole?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." So we had that conversation and decided to put off the full-on marketing for a while. I said like 6 months to a year. It ended up being a year until they came up with a fully fleshed out vision for how the firm was going to operate. And that took changing systems, some staffing, bringing on some additional staffing, working with the staffing that they had to move some people up. Some people were kind of overdue for a promotion, overdue for taking on additional responsibilities. And then we also had to rebrand. And I know people think of rebranding as a marketing thing, but when I'm working with my clients, we talk about that as well. Like, who are we attracting? Psychologically, like what are you, when you're out speaking to the world, when you're wearing something, or always talking about something, like how are people hearing that, and how is that landing in order to attract the people that you want? And so just making some of those shifts, even over the year where we weren't doing any marketing, started to draw in the correct or the ideal types of clients for that firm to grow.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think a lot of legal transactions or client interactions might be maybe a single point of thing, like you were saying, personal injury, a divorce, for example, whereas in other relationships are much longer term. And whether you're helping a business grow or it's an intellectual property side, you're preparing a patent application, you're working with a client. Well, we still have to wait to hear back from the patent office, and they reject the application, and we have to, take it to the next step. So this is in a lot of cases, a multi-year process, and that's a different relationship sometimes than someone that you work intensely with in a personal injury case. The case is resolved one way or the other, and I suppose hopefully, or maybe maybe not, you don't see that person. They might call you for something else, but you hope they don't have a string of personal injury claims. But it's a little bit different when you're working with, say, a business, or an individual or an entrepreneur, and someone that's looking for branding and so forth, because it's more long term, and you get to know them, you get to know what they're doing and how they do business.
Yeah, I would think from your side, like that, getting that patent, I mean, that's like their baby. That's like their creative product, and blood, sweat, and tears went into that. So I can see where it'd be very important to move forward with that.
Right, right. So let's see. Well, I guess a good question would be, what's next? What are you working on? I like to ask people that I have on my podcast, is there some something that we can help promote here, or something that you'd like to share that the audience can look forward to seeing or hearing from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just met with my speaking coach earlier today, and they've kind of been pushing me, supporting me, I guess, to get a book done, and also a course. Um,
Great.
my bread and butter, my day-to-day activities are one-to-one conversations, and then like also I'll put on planning retreats and things like that. But it would be nice to have a one-to-many voice. So to have my voice in print, or to have my voice in video lessons that could be accessed. So that would be coming soon. I'm not going to say by the end of the year, because that would be a little bit too much, but maybe into first quarter.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And, I guess just if you want to just cycle through some of your contact information, we'll have all of that in the podcast and the video description and everything too. But just for the benefit of our listeners out there, what are some of your contact points?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and you can just look by my name, Daya, Daya, Naef, Naef. Also, The Success Partner is pretty easy to find. I'm on all the channels, and I run a couple of meetup groups, so you can find me on Meetup as well. I have a lawyers happy hour that meets every month, where we have great content and guest speakers. And yeah, Facebook. And so anyway, it says The Success Partner or Daya Naef. Just look me up.
Great. No, that's excellent. I appreciate that. And like I say, we'll have all that information in the description and so forth. If anyone listening couldn't jot that down in time. All right. Well, I guess you have any questions for me just before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, I love the new logo with the patent baron. So
Thank you.
that's great. Yeah, I think who well, I mean, how if I were someone looking for you, like how would I know that I was looking for you?
Well, you can always find me. I have a website, patentbaron.com, and of course, I'm on LinkedIn and some other social media as well. But that's probably the best way to reach me is through the website, and certainly adding more content to that on a regular basis, and really appreciate all the people I have that are working on that or helping it grow. So definitely pleased with how that's going. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Great. Well, great talking to you today. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So this has been another Patent Baron podcast. And if you'd like to learn more about what Daya does and what I do, you can visit our various sites and see us on LinkedIn. We're happy to talk to you about what we do and how we can help you. Have a good rest of your day.